Oh, cheese. I mentioned that Catherine loved cheese. Does cheese have hormones? Well, milk comes from a cow. Cows make estrogens. That's right. At the risk of being a little creepy, I want to tell you something about milk. Every glass of milk you ever had came from a cow, and a cow will not make milk until the cow has been impregnated and given birth. Here's the way this occurs. Every dairy, everywhere in the world, there is some underpaid farm worker who puts a glove on his left hand, all the way up to his shoulder, and he inserts his hand into the cow's rectum. This is right. The hand goes in the cow's rectum, and through the rectal wall, you can feel the uterus, which you then grip and hold it steady. With his right hand, he takes what looks like a knitting needle and he shoves it through the cervix of the cow and injects semen that he had taken from a bull. Now, the animals are not volunteers, but she is not going to object because she's chained by the neck. And she's going to get impregnated whether she wants to or not. And 9 months later, she'll give birth. And all the farmhands gather around and think, oh, this is a beautiful thing. You know, she's got this awkward little calf who's kind of all bones and looking up at mom, and she's looking down at her baby, and she starts to lick him, and you can just see the mother-infant bond. But the farmhands also know that this is a dairy. We want that milk. That's for dipping Oreos in. We're going to sell that. We're going to sell that for ice cream. We're going to sell it for cheese. We're going to sell that for yogurt. We're going to sell it to grocery stores. We're going to make some money. This isn't for you, calf. So the calf is picked up by the chest and put in a wheelbarrow and taken out. And of course, there's no bond in nature greater than a mother and her baby. And so the mother follows and says, in her own way, that's my calf you're taking away. And eventually a gate will slam in her face and she will stand right at that spot and cry out. And her calf, if the calf is female, she will be put in an isolation hutch and raised on a dairy, a non-milk feed until she's old enough to have somebody's hand up her backside. And if the calf is male, the male will be killed because people have a taste for the rubbery muscles of a newborn calf. And the mother cow, would normally live to about age 20. That's the normal cow lifespan, but not on a dairy. By about 4, dairy farmers are smart people. They know that by about 4, her milk production is not the same as it was as when she was 2 and 3. And so they will send her off for slaughter, for cheap meat. And then her daughters, nieces, granddaughters will be artificially inseminated and impregnated. And that's where the milk comes from. So I know that sounds creepy. But the reason I went through that, and I wanted you to know just the objective details about it, are that it's important to understand that when this is happening, the cows are milked during the pregnancy. So she's creating estrogen before she was pregnant. She's making much more during the pregnancy. And so when they're milking her during your pregnancy, the estrogen gets down the little milking tubes into the milk pail, into your milk, into your cheese, into your ice cream. And if you're eating it, or if you're feeding dairy products to your 8-year-old son, your 6-year-old daughter, you are feeding them traces of estradiol. What? We're feeding estradiol, female sex hormones to our children? Yes, you are. And you're eating it yourself with dairy products. And you're part of an industry that a lot of people have thought is surprisingly cruel. We thought they don't kill the animals, do they? Of course they do. They kill all of them. The dairy industry is a meat industry. It just takes you a little while longer to get there. But they're all killed in the process. No, and there's no such thing as hormone-free milk. Am I cheering you up? It gets worse. Gary Fraser and his team at Loma Linda University wanted to look at whether the hormones that are in dairy might have perhaps some more serious effects. They looked at breast cancer. And the group that they looked at was a group of Seventh-day Adventists, a very large group of people. And Adventists are studied for a really good reason. There are many of them, tens of thousands, who are ready for study and eager to volunteer, health conscious, almost entirely teetotalers, and non-smokers. a perfect research population. And they vary in diet. Some of them consume a lot of meat, some of them consume a lot of dairy, some consume none. And there's every gradation in between. So they're perfect, and they've been under the microscope of researchers for decades. And here's what Dr. Fraser and his group did. They looked at milk. That's the x-axis here. No milk consumption. You see that down there? A quarter cup, half cup, 2 cups, 4 cups a day. The y-axis going up vertically, that's breast cancer risk. You see the relationship. More dairy, more breast cancer. What we believe is happening, or at least our hypothesis, is that the traces of estrogens in the milk add to the estrogen that's already in your body. You already have all the estrogens that Mother Nature wanted you to have. And frankly, if you're on a high-fat diet, you probably got a little extra. If you're on a low-fat diet, same story, and now you're adding cheese or yogurt or a glass of milk to it, and that added bit may be just enough to cause a breast cell to turn into a cancer cell. That's the hypothesis. And that's why doctors like me are saying, good idea to just skip the dairy. Well, what if a woman has had breast cancer in the past? Dairy products are associated with the risk of dying. The green bar here, women who had had breast cancer in the past, but avoid high-fat dairy products. The yellow bar is the mortality of women who had breast cancer in the past, but are now having between a half a serving and a serving of high-fat dairy every day. The red bar, these are women who had breast cancer in the past, but now they're having a serving of high-fat dairy or more every day. You don't have to look very long before you can see that women consuming the most high-fat dairy have about a 50% higher risk of dying of their breast cancer compared to the women who tend to avoid dairy. So dairy products are associated with higher risk of getting breast cancer, at least in the studies we've been looking at, and higher risk of dying.